Mr. Everyone, you all know me as Shrikant Handal, and I've been making a lot of educational videos till now, but I always wanted to start a YouTube series on something philosophical, something that you know could be the purpose of my life here on Earth, and wasn't able to do it for a long time. In fact, after having joined Methodist College, the process of inner thinking and Insearch actually went quiet for some time. And now that I'm out of the college, I think I'll be able to focus a little bit more on the philosophical side of what I always wanted to do. And I guess this video is the beginning of that. I don't know how many of you have a curiosity to know everything that exists. I did have a lot of curiosity about this. This curious nature actually probably started when I was studying at my school, Manik Public School. In fact, I don't think it actually started there, but this is the place where my inner quest was nurtured to a very high status. I did have this, the quest to pursue the truth. What is the truth? And what is the ekam? The ekam, as in the ekam sat viprabhavadanti. Which is a very a shloka which is very central to the philosophy followed by Veda, which says the truth is but one, and the Vipra, or the intelligent people, wise people, they pursue it, in very different forms, and that's actually what has resulted in so many different forms of beliefs, of so many different religions, of all the diversity, you can say, that resulted in my motherland, in such a small place, guarded by the Himalayas in the north and surrounded by ocean at the feet. This is the land which is the land of diversity. And I always pursued this Satya, this truth, assuming it to be a kind of universal truth. A truth which is not relative, which is absolute, and which can be applied for everything and anything that exists or has possibility to exist. Now, the process of doing that, it's not been simple. It was not very simple. And it all probably started with my grandma. With her stories, she used to tell us whenever there was outage of electricity. And this was one of the reasons why I actually used to look forward to when the electricity would go out, and was thankful to our government for not providing us with continuous electricity for all the time, especially during nights. And this was the only time when grandma would open up her mind and now shower the stories over to us, mythical stories, and stories that talked about fighting swords in midair, which she used to tell us that she had seen with her own eyes. It was miraculous. How can swords be fighting in the mid-air? Gravity is a truth which we always see around us. Things usually come down, they fall, and if swords are some kind of matter, they have to follow gravity. Not because of Newton, of course. Of course, he is credit by the student community, but because it's a nature of things to fall. That's why that's the way we see things going on around us. But of course, there were some serials which showed people floating midair and things happening, miraculous things, with a little sort of cinematography. But as a child, we had a very good belief system, imagination, and that made up for whatever the VFX lacked. Ended up believing whatever was shown to us on that idiot box, the television. But there was always this something like secret, something mysterious, something secret that I saw around me. Well, at home there were stories, myths, stories, about the myths, worshipping, and there was school. School was science, logic, and the worship was treated as something of my belief. So while the school taught us not to respect all the things that are provided as home, the home always told us that school gives you the best, and we should always follow everything that is taught at school because that is necessary for us to become good human beings. Well, it took me a long time for realizing that school did not teach us everything required. In fact, the majority of what it taught us was either completely useful to us, useless to us, or it was a complete lie. Only when I came out of the grips of school was I able to realize the truth, what might have happened, what the different perspectives of looking at things, the same things. And I realized that we were under the grip of the Western schooling, and everything we studied took us deeper into that grip which binds us into believing that we and our ancestors, people who born in this land, in Bharatvarsha, didn't do much. This belief stayed in me for a long time. I think it's still a large part of my personality. But this is something that all us Bharatiyas have to come out of. I don't know when that's going to happen, but we have to take steps, even if they are small baby steps. We need to take those steps, and we must make progress towards coming out of this, because only when we come out of this and get ourselves attached with our roots would we be able to show the world what we actually are. So this series of YouTube videos, I'm starting with the same purpose. I wanted to do it long back, but something or the other came in my way. Either it was the academics or studies or work or family. In fact, I don't even know that I'll be able to continue to make videos, because next week my kids are going to be back and it could go away. But I want to continue making it, that's for sure. So whenever I get time, I will continue to make it. So without making much wastage of time, let's get ahead and do a small plan for what it is and how it is that I want to go ahead with these videos. So let's say why I really wanted to do this. So most of it I've explained to you already, and have a few things to add. But of course, so as I told Ekam Sat, this was the ultimate truth that I was pursuing for a long time. And I went to various different people, different sources. My first stop was, of course, my grandma's stories. I tried to see the truth in them. But the stories were mythical, and there was no logic in it. At one point, it told us about something, and at the very next point, it is just telling it's something else entirely. The philosophical part, of course, was most of them was consistent, but when it came to the material logic, physical logic, or the laws of physics and all, it failed to explain what I always observed around me. And then going to school, of course, we heard a lot about Newton, and it was only after coming out of school that I was able to get an idea about what kind of person Newton was in his real life. Now, in the intermediate, of course, our sir, I think his name is Chandrasekhar sir, he used to teach us physics, and he was the first probably person who taught me to actually hate Newton. Before that, I was a fan of him. And when I read the book, what is that? The Big Bang Theory. Yeah, that was the book. And in that book, at the back side of this book, Mr. Stephen Hawking has given life history of some of the scientists, and I read about Newton. That was probably the first time I actually thought that it might be true. Because of course, after the school, I considered everything that came from the West as best, and everything that we had as with us, it's waste. Not complete waste, but I had some respect for the philosophy and the worshipping part, because that's what made my family happy. Always, this was always on this back seat, science being on the front seat at the time. So there was one truth that I wanted, that I was in search for, that not only explained about science, but also could be found consistent with the worship that I did at home. And that's how the quest started. And that's what is the truth that is consistent with both the worshiping and science that I always pursued. I wanted to seek it. That's the thing I sought. And there is a possibility that I have stumbled upon it. Why do I think I stumbled upon it and not many others? Because whatever I'm going to talk about in this series of videos, it's going to be very different from what anyone around the earth might have written or thought about. I don't not, of course, read everything that the world has to offer, but in everything that I've read and I've heard, the end conclusions that I was able to stumble upon was never part of that. Nobody speaks about this, nobody has thought in this particular direction. So maybe it's a different perspective that I'm putting in front of you, or maybe it's a completely different way of thinking, or maybe it is the ultimate truth that I always sought. Maybe it's completely meaningless or useless, and that's probably why people didn't think of it in this particular direction. But that makes me actually wonder that there are a lot of other useless things that people have thought Like in mathematics, there are a lot of theorems that we haven't even been able to apply. The Ramanujan, our Indian mathematician, was able to produce so many more, for which even now scientists or no mathematicians and scientists are trying to find the proof of. They cannot disprove it, but at the same time it's very difficult for them to prove it. Not it. Okay. There is a plural, so it's gonna be them, the theorems. So this is what I want to talk about. So I think today's video pretty much covers why I'm doing this series. But I don't know where to start. There is so much. So just to give you an idea about what my perspective, my way of thinking actually is, how it sees the world, let me just give you a simple example. We have all heard about this theory. It's called flat earth theory. Right. There are variations of this theory, of course, and one of the very famous one is that there is a turtle. Okay, there is a turtle, and the earth is a flat land. This is a flat land, and it's standing inside the ocean. The turtle is standing in the ocean, and actually I don't know whether it's standing in the ocean or not, but turtle is there, definitely there, and at the back of the turtle there's a flat piece of land, and that's what Earth is. Well, many people would say that this is completely wrong. We have watched the Earth from space, and it appears very different, and it's circular with a lot of it consisting of ocean, and there is a very small amount of land over there. This is a fact. We cannot change it, but this theory may not be completely wrong as well. And you might think that this guy is talking about the flat Earth theory being correct and all, but no. Let's look at it in a different perspective. Just humor me for a moment, at least. Let's say that our subconscious mind, the mind which is connected with all of us through our five senses, and brain, of course, the mind is the one which is processing the information received from these five inputs, the five senses, and all the processing that the mind is able to do based on the experience from the intuition. This is probably what is the sixth sense, which people talk about sometimes. And let's say this subconscious mind was trying to tell us about a fact. The fact being that the land moves slowly. Well, does the land move slowly? Well, of course, know about the continental drift. It's proven. And we have the Himalayas as the standard testimony to this. The height of these mountains is increasing even now as we speak. Every year there is a slight increase in the height of these mountains. Why is that happening? Because the peninsular region of Bharat actually is trying to move further inwards towards Asia. And while Asia is moving very slowly, India might be moving a little faster. And this movement of land is resulting in increase in height of these Himalayas. So continental drift, I can say that it is a proven fact. And let's say our subconscious mind is trying to tell us, it was trying to tell us about this continental drift. How would it tell us? It cannot speak to us directly, of course. In the mythology, of course, there was something called voices coming from heaven, stuff like that, but we all know that's not going to happen unless we are mad and hypnotic, or what is it called? Delusional, or things like that. Then we'd be, not be normal people, would be. But of course, this is the truth, and this definitely affects our lives. But this is very, very slow. Over the period of one single organism's life, they might not be much of a difference. But over generations, this change is going to be very, very obvious. So let's say our subconscious mind is trying to tell us that there is something called continental drift happening. The land is moving, but very slowly. How would it tell us that? Because it would tell a person who is very strong at detecting these subconscious. So he has to be a person who is very good with his usage of mind, and a lot of people would believe such a guy, wouldn't they? So if that guy is telling that something's happening, I got a premonition of some kind about this being the truth, then all people would believe it, wouldn't they? So how exactly would the subconscious give us this message is my next question. So it cannot just do interference. The divine intervention is anything possible. People just could have made it up. But maybe it was other kind of delusions, public delusions, shared delusions, kind of a thing. I don't know. I've not gone much into that. But certainly there is a possibility of this transfer of message to our wise man, who is very susceptible to all the changes happening in the subconscious. So how would he get this vision? Let's say this message needs to be transferred through a dream. What would he dream? He would dream that the land is moving slowly. And what is the symbol of slow movement? Let's say it's the tortoise. So maybe your subconscious mind was telling us that the land is moving slowly. That's why this wise person, the person who's very good at detecting subconscious stuff, who got a dream of the land playing at the back of a tortoise. And we probably didn't know about continued drift at that time. So what meaning would he make of this? He would just literally say that land is flat, because he finds land flat all around him. And because he jumped off a tortoise, it's got to be at the back of a tortoise. Probably that's how this belief started, and it's still progressing. And the people who take literal meaning out of it are still considering this story a complete myth, completely wrong. As if we consider the spiritual side of it, and if we translate this symbology in a correct sense, then we just get the answer of continental drift. Okay, so at this point again, a lot of people would say that I'm just trying to fit it in because I really want to. That could also be true, especially my friend, Mr. Project, who is a scientist, well, at least uh, in his practice. He would definitely say this. He would say that, yeah, but just because you're telling something, you want to believe in something, that would not necessarily mean that I'm right. Of course, he could be right. Maybe he's not right. There's always a chance of that. Maybe I'm true too, along with everything that people keep saying. And now you probably have an idea about what I want to tell. This is how my way of thinking actually proceeds. And where is it inspired? Of course, it's I think inspired from Swami Vivekananda. In his discourses, in one of his discourses, there are 4 books which are a collection of his discourses, and Jnana Yoga was the most prominent one, I think, the one which had the greatest impact over my way of thinking, my way of thinking, my philosophy, everything. That now every conclusion that I was able to draw over a period of time, Jnana Yoga was very centric to that. And I think in this book, Swamiji Vivekananda is trying to tell about the difference between tolerance and acceptance. Tolerance means you just don't want to offend someone, and that's the reason you're just accepting whatever beliefs or whatever ways that the person is good, the person likes. You're just going with the flow, to not wanting to harm the feelings of that person. But acceptance is actually believing in that person. There is a lot of difference. Tolerance would have a limit. After some limit, after some amount of time, and that some amount may vary from person to person, of course, but there of course comes one time when the person just gives up, and when that line is crossed, this person will no longer be ready to tolerate under any circumstances. But with acceptance, that's not the case. Acceptance means that you accept the person, the beliefs, or whatever his likes and dislikes are. You accept them as they are, and you fit them into your way of thinking, your philosophy, your beliefs, in such a way that it all makes sense, not just for him, but for you as well. And acceptance is what will actually lead us to a much happier, much more satisfied way of living, of knowing that everything is the way it is. And I just always try to accept things rather than just tolerate them. So that's another reason why I'm doing this philosophy, this quest for the truth, pursuing the truth, seeking the truth. There is a lot to talk about. There's no limit to how much we can go on and on. We can go on for days. The problem is putting them all in order, because I stumbled upon it in a different order, in a different way. And if I don't put it in the correct order, it's going to be, I mean, if I put it in the same order as I got it, it's probably going to be very difficult for you. And if I sit down and try to bring them in the correct order, it's going to probably take my whole life, and I will still not be able to do it. So I've decided that I'm just going to take a one point, one one topic at a time, and I'm going to speak about it in each video that I get time to spend on. So today's video, of course, as you must have understood, it was about why I'm making this series of videos and what significance these videos have for me, what significance this truth that I want to talk about has for me. In future videos, I'll be talking about the mythologies and the way I see them translated, and of course, I promise you that this truth that I'm going to talk about will definitely be stranger than fiction. In fact, it's stranger than all the fiction that you have ever come across in your life, be it mythology or just a fiction. So yes, today's video ends here. See you in the next one. Goodbye.